So as you come in, make sure your space is warm enough for you. If you would like to sit on something softer, go ahead and find a seat that will be comfortable for you for the next few minutes. If it is a cross-legged seat, just note which leg you kind of instinctively brought on top or in front. Inviting the eyes to rest. We may be spinning the palms to face down into a rooting position. Inhaling through the nostrils and perhaps just sighing it out through the mouth. Releasing, inviting the release of tension from the jaw, the neck, the shoulders, arriving. Please feel free to repeat that a time or several. Taking some exploratory inhales in through the nostrils and out through the mouth. And perhaps letting it be audible, sighing, just releasing. We'll take a few moments to just let the body wobble, finding the seat that will work for you for this moment. And let's spin palms to face up, inviting movement into fingers. Maybe the toes start to come along for the ride. Let's raise the hands, circling the wrists. And take a moment, go the other way. The fingers might be flourishing right along with the wrist circles. And let's begin to move the elbows. And reverse, go the other way. Moving in that second direction. Releasing the hands, let the eyes rest. Taking another deep inhale in. And releasing, letting go. Soften the jaw. Notice any little ripples that we might be experiencing within. Inviting the shoulders to start to roll. One shoulder and then the other. And perhaps we're bringing some movement into the neck. The head might tip, lean a little side to side. And let's pause and start to circle in that second direction. Let the ribs move if that feels instinctive. Let the body sigh. Pausing again, let the eyes rest. Feel the body shape shift as we breathe. After a little bit of movement, maybe there's a sense of releasing, a sense of a little deeper, fuller inhalation, a little fuller exhalation. We may spin the palms to face up, and perhaps we widen both arms out to the side, bringing movement back into the fingers, working some of the bend, a lot of bend maybe, out of the elbows. There's a lot of tension in the forearms and the wrists. You can always bend those elbows in. We might add in some head nodding. How do the wrists feel, the forearms? Gathering the hands in, let's reach just one arm up in the air. Now I'm going to mirror directionally. So maybe you've taken that left arm high, but maybe it's your right. We'll just swap into the other side in a moment. Just making a note for yourself. And inviting that arm down. And give yourself a moment to pause and notice the effect. Maybe it's very subtle. Maybe there's a really big sensation following that bit of movement. And then raising that second arm. We may drop the chin. We might be mobilizing fingers. Noticing how the side body feels, how the shoulder feels. And then letting that hand release. Take a moment, perhaps resting the eyes so that we can really brighten that inner awareness of the body's response to the movement. So let's tap a left finger, bend that left elbow, and again, raise the left arm up in the air, letting the chin turn more to the left. And we may nod the head. We might feel like we have a little bit of rotation this time to the left. Inviting that hand back to rest, to land. And let the body tip lean a little bit forward. Stay connected with the breath. And gradually shifting a little bit back. It doesn't have to be a big movement. It can be a movement that is so subtle, you feel it, but it may not be visible. Let that right elbow bend and the right arm is reaching up in the air, but maybe we have bend in that elbow. You're listening to your body. And we may rotate just a little more to the right. Is the sensation changing through the side body? Maybe, maybe not. And letting that arm come down. Perhaps we rest the eyes. Letting the body find a little shift forward, a little shift back. And then consider sliding the ribs to one side. It doesn't matter which side you go to. Now, if this feels like too much pull, too much strain in the opposite side, just back it off. Again, you can make this as subtle as you prefer. Let the sternum move forward, shoulders forward, and slide over to that second side. Give yourself a moment, breathing, checking in with those side ribs. And then we'll round the back a little bit, moving back. But again, you can make this as subtle as you like. And perhaps we just keep going, circling. We might be feeling inclined to incorporate more movement through the shoulders. Maybe not. Let's pause and start to circle now in the second direction. It doesn't have to be speedy. You can slow it down. Maybe those shoulders are getting more involved in the movement, making it a little juicier. And next time you come around, let's find our way back to the middle, perhaps palms face up, eyes at rest, thumbprints, index fingerprints may connect. Let the body sigh. And let's bring the hands behind the back or out to the side, and whichever leg you have on top or in front, go ahead and extend that leg, reach out, release. Second side, extend, reach out, bringing that second leg now on top or in front. Perhaps rocking, sits bones back, spinning palms to face forward. We may sweep both arms up and overhead as we exhale, twisting towards your right. We may prefer to keep the crown of the head high. Maybe we enjoy the stretch in the neck and let the chin release a little closer to the chest. Let's inhale, bring it back to the middle. Exhale, rotating, twisting to that second side. Listening to your neck. Let's inhale, find the middle, thumbs to forehead, thumbs to heart. Let's draw the wrists down in line with the elbows and consider pressing the elbows over to the right, and just notice if that elbow wanted to tuck in. It might not be that extreme, but try to keep it in line with the left. And as we're breathing, we may nod, turn the head opposite. So if the elbows went right, the chin may go left. Back it off, back to the middle, reach the fingers forward, circling the wrists. Let's land, palms together, glide the elbows over to that second side and just check in. Did we tuck the elbow in, open it back up? Chin may nod, turn, maybe over to the right, opposite the elbows. If we're not feeling much, notice how high the wrists are, the hands are. We might pull the heels of the hands down in line with the elbows. Let's bring it back to the middle one more time, circling the wrists around. Let's go the other way. Gather those hands back in, hands behind the back, leg on top, extend, reach out. Second leg, reach out. And let's place both feet on the ground. If you'd like a little cushion underneath yourself, you're welcome to keep it there. Inviting both knees to tip over to the right. So we're starting to twist perhaps a little more to the right, letting the ribs slide right. The shoulder, the right shoulder might be Passively rising up towards the earlobe. And let's bring it back through the middle with the knees. Take the knees to that second side. So the left shoulder may be rising, belly button moving a little more left as we twist left. You might place that right hand on the ground for added support. And let's move back to the middle, take it back to the right. And we may keep that left hand on the thigh, the belly, maybe it's on the floor for support. Continuing to lengthen through the right side ribs, shoulder rising. Let's bring knees back to the middle, knees to the left. And then gradually coming back to center. Maybe you're spreading a blanket for a little added insulation for warmth. Let's bring ourselves down onto the back and invite the knees into the chest. So maybe we're placing the hands on the knees. We can have the ankles crossed or not. And we may find a little rock of the hips side to side. We may be working the bend out of the elbows, pushing the thighs, the knees further away, and then rocking the knees in. You're welcome to keep the hands on the knees. You're welcome to let the backs of the hands rest on the ground. Starting to circle the knees around. Let's circle second direction. Wobble into the middle and then let the knees move wide. Now the hands might help with this. You might extend the elbows, push the knees away, and then draw the knees together. Bend the elbows, pull the knees into the chest. You can also do this completely hands-free. So these are frog circles. And reverse, go the other way, circle, second direction. Let's land the feet to the ground. Find a little rock, lift the heels, drop the heels, rock back on the heels, lift and fan the toes, and release. Rock that right thigh into the chest, reach the right toes up to the ceiling. Now please keep as much bend in that knee as you need at this moment. We might be working the leg closer to straight as we press up through the heel and let that go, point up through the toe, going back and forth. Back and forth. Start to circle the ankles slowly around. Try not to speed through it. Fan the toes. Go the other way. Check in with the breathing. The body may sigh. How's the ankle feeling? The lower leg rebending. Let that right foot land. Let's step the feet wide. Let the knees tip in. Full inhale. Perhaps a sighing exhale. Notice the sensation around right foot, ankle, lower leg, thigh. Heel, toe, feet in. Rocking, wobbling that left thigh into the chest. Giving the hips, the sacrum, a little self-massage against the ground. Let that leg rise. Again, maybe we're keeping more bend in the knee. Flex point. Maybe we're working that leg closer to straight, turning up the intensity. Perhaps at the back of the leg. Will all be a little different. Circling that ankle around. Circle second direction. Full breathing. Letting that knee bend. Foot to the ground. Step the feet wide. Let the knees tip in. Let's open both arms out to the sides. Palms face up. Little movement through the fingers. Notice how this may feel in the upper arms and let the chin roll to the left. Try to keep the right shoulder grounded. If you need to back it off, bend that right elbow. Let the chin move back to the middle and we'll find a little wobble of the head side to side. Let the chin roll to the second side. And again, you're welcome to bend that left elbow to take the intensity off. If it's just a little much, maybe through the wrist, the forearm, maybe it's the shoulder or the neck. And very gently coming back to the middle. Let's bend both elbows, hook the thumbs, and start to reach the arms up and overhead so the palms are facing up. We may have movement in the fingers. Feel the ribs widen with the inhale. We may tilt the tailbone down and glide, rock the hips a little. And exhale, releasing. We may swap the hook of the thumbs, heel toe, feet in, slide that left leg long, pressing out through that left heel, slide right heel long. Legs are together. Full breathing as we lengthen the body, maybe a little movement through toes, through fingers. And exhale, soften the elbows, bend the elbows, so open the legs a little wider. Give the legs a little rock. Full inhale, and the body may sigh. Let's reach both arms overhead. Bend the left knee, press into the left foot and lift the hips and move them a little bit to the left. Let's tap the left foot and then peel that left heel up and off the ground. So we're starting to roll towards right side body. And maybe we take the left arm overhead or put it in front of the chest like a kickstand, and we can absolutely keep those left toes grounded. We might be starting to hover to float that left leg up in the air. Rebend the knee, let that foot come down to the ground. We'll roll back onto back body, spilling the left knee out to the left. So if you're familiar with tree pose, it's like that, but we're on the ground. Let's roll that left knee back up towards the ceiling, peel the heel up, stack the left hip on top of the right. And maybe we're lifting the left leg, but we certainly don't have to. And then gradually rocking back onto the back and letting that left knee spill back towards the ground. So let's roll that left knee up towards the ceiling, slide the right foot in, press into the feet, level the hips under the shoulders. Go ahead, take that left leg long, press into the right foot and move the hips a little more to the right. So we're peeling right heel up. We're pressing off the ball mound of the foot. Maybe we're using the right hand in front of the chest like a kickstand. We can keep the foot down. We can keep the toes down. Maybe it feels good to extend the leg, challenging the balance. We'll roll back onto the back, spilling right knee to the right, spilling right arm to the ground. Let the body breathe. And let's again peel that right heel up, rolling to the left, and you're choosing. Does that right arm stay overhead? Does it go in front of the chest? Are we hovering that right leg, or maybe keeping the big toe grounded? Rocking back onto the back, let that knee spill out to the side. Breathing, roll the knee up towards the ceiling. Let's slide left foot in. Sway the hips back under the shoulders. Bring the elbows down alongside the ribs, and if you feel like you're still tilting or leaning a little to one side, just give yourself a moment to square off. Consider opening both arms out towards a cactus position. Fan the toes. Start to curl the hips up, pressing down into the feet. So this doesn't have to be your highest lift. And then rolling down from the upper back, trying to roll down the mid back, and then rolling down the low back. Once the hips land, think about tilting the tailbone to the ground, and it may feel like your low back just got lighter. Fan the toes and let's repeat. Curl the tailbone up, let the hips rise. The back, the mid back is rising, and then gradually reverse. Upper back, mid back, low back, tailbone tilts down, arch the back. Curl the tailbone up. We may be lifting the toes, the low back, the middle back rising. And then slowly articulating down, upper back, mid back, low back. Tilt the tailbone and maybe we give the hips a little wobble side to side. We have a little bit of lightness, separation of the low back from the floor, and then let go of that efforting. Inchworm the feet forward. So you're curling the toes and maneuvering the heels forward. And then tuck the toes and move the heels back. So you might find one direction easier than the other. And then heel toe soles of the feet together and let the knees drop out. So knees are moving wide. We may lift the heels and sway the heels side to side. So the little toes are down on the ground and the heels may be moving side to side. Let's release, let the heels land, let the eyes rest. This is too intense on the inner legs. Please put props underneath the thighs, underneath the knees, maybe both locations. Heel toeing, bringing the feet wide. Let the knees move back up and in. Heels turn out. Raising that right arm overhead, heel toe feet together, slide the right leg long. Step that left foot up and in, peel the heel up. Start to roll all the way onto that right side. We may extend the top leg, watch out for props. Carefully, water bottles, watch out. Roll all the way over onto the belly. And if like me, you came off the mat, we might move back over onto the mat, rising up into a Sphinx pose. Now your Sphinx might be still. You might grab a block and support the brow. Your Sphinx may wander. Let's slowly come all the way down. Land on your right cheek. Nose tip turns left. This is a lot in the neck. You can always double up your mat or fold up a towel and put it underneath the cheek. Plant the hands, let the chest rise, heart rise, turn the other cheek. Sweep the arms back, shoulders draping. And let's plant the hands. Rise back up, bring the elbows, the forearms forward. So we're moving back into Sphinx. We might find a little glide, side to side, right to left. Let that right arm slide long and carefully roll back over onto your mat. So we might just be coming completely off the mat. You're welcome to shift back onto it, or if you have lots of room, don't worry about it. So let's take that left leg long, bend the right knee, arms overhead, peel that right heel up. And maybe we're extending that right leg and slowly rolling over onto the belly, finding our way back up into Sphinx. So again, if you prefer to stay on the mat, you're welcome to come back onto it. As we rise up, let's bring the right forearm in front of the left, walk the forearms a little bit forward, and then inchworm the fingers out wide beyond the long edges of the mat. So the chin may drape over the right upper arm. You might prefer to turn the nose tip, the chin to the left. Breathing around the upper shoulders. And we'll gradually bring those forearms together, resting in the middle. walking those elbows in and sliding the second forearm on top. So left forearm on top of right, inchworming the fingers out to the side. So the chin may drape over the left upper arm, or if it's just more comfortable, turn the nose tip, the chin to the right. Breathing between the shoulder blades. Maybe you've been doing a lot of snow shoveling. We may give a thumbs up. We may wobble the thumbs. We may roll the backs of the hands towards the ground. And gradually slide the forearms back in, resting. Bringing the hands alongside the chest, lifting the heart, rising up into a cobra, pressing the hips back towards the heels for a child's pose. Now we might grab a block or a cushion for the brow. We may keep the arms fully extended. You might prefer to have bend in elbows. Perhaps we're tenting the fingers. And let's take a moment, walk the fingers in, lift the chest, starting to bring both hands over to the left. So we might try to lift those left ribs a bit up and over the left thigh for side bending child's pose. And please feel free to grab a block so that the brow isn't just hovering, so that we can find more ease through the neck. Maybe the brow comfortably comes to the ground. We may lean those right ribs out to the right. Optionally, you might roll the right ribs up towards the ceiling just a little bit, and then exhale, roll that right shoulder back down. So we may inhale, raise the right ribs, and exhale, roll the right ribs back towards the ground. Bringing the hands back to the middle, rising up so that we can lift right ribs up and over that right thigh. And perhaps we just extend the arms out and over to the right. We may just pin that left hand down and lean away. Breathing, we don't have to do anything else. If you tried it on the other side and you want to try it here, we may be raising left ribs with the inhale and dropping, closing the shoulder with the exhale. You can repeat, but you certainly don't have to. What feels right. And let's gradually make our way back to the middle, and you might want some knee padding. So we may grab the knee padding. This is going to get right into the toes. So we're on our knees, but we start to tuck the toes under and sit back. So you may wish to use your fingers a little bit here to help spread the toes and to help ensure that the smallest toes are getting involved. And this might be enough. We might keep hands down. Some of us might enjoy coming up a little bit higher. I'm going to use the word enjoy loosely here. It can be very intense in those toes. Releasing forward, we may now point the feet, and you might want the tops of the feet on extra padding. So we may sit back in a kneeling position. We may walk the hands back. And you might lift one knee at a time. I like both knees at the same time, but everybody's different. So you're listening to what feels right for you. Maybe there's no knee lifting. You might not enjoy any knee lifting, but maybe we're getting into the tops of the feet and finding a little bit of movement. And if it's just one leg at a time today, make sure you take a moment and swap. Try the other side. So we'll bring the hands back in. Find the knees on the cushion again. Tuck the right toes. Send that right heel back. Chin perhaps towards chest. We may nod the head. And let's release right knee down and send left heel back. So getting into the back of that lower leg a little more. Maybe a tip nod side to side with the head. Let's release that left knee and take a moment to drop into cow. So we're sway back and the shoulders are moving up to the ears, and then go the other way. Chin towards chest, back is rounding. Maybe there's a little rock wobble through the hips. Perhaps the hips are moving back closer to the heels. Let's slide the hands back. You may want to locate your blocks, and we'll use the blocks as arm extenders. Bring the hands forward, stepping that right foot forward, going for a little deeper lunge, sinking into the hips, maybe a little shift side to side. Try to find a place where you can keep the right heel grounded, the front heel. And then letting the hips slide back. Perhaps we're inchworming or sliding that right foot a little further forward and rocking back on the heel. Bending back into that right knee, shifting forward. And gradually at your own pace, the hips slide back. Maybe that right foot moving forward, perhaps rocking back on the heel. We may roll or dial the toes, the right knee a little more to the right, keeping that right heel anchored. And let's slowly bring that right knee back into a bent knee position. We may land the hands, we may tuck the back toes and raise that back knee. We may heel toe that right foot wider to make it a bit more comfortable to place right hand on right thigh. Of course, you're always welcome to put that back knee back down on the ground. You can choose to keep the knee up. We may raise the right arm up in the air. We may bring movement into the fingers. Notice right hip, right thigh, right cheek. Letting that top hand cycle down, landing left knee, and we may find the blocks and heel toe, right foot out to the right at any point you're comfortable, picking it up, swinging it up and around. And let's drop back into a child's pose. You can choose knees separated, wide knee, or closed knee position, which feels right for your body in this moment. Please stay a while longer if you like. We may rise up, find our block hands, move them forward, stepping left foot forward between the block hands, and shifting into that knee bend. Take your time. Hello, right hip, inner right thigh. Maybe you're feeling it a little somewhere else. So you're listening to your body. The hips begin to investigate going backwards. Maybe we're adjusting the hands backwards. We might inchworm or slide that left foot further forward, perhaps rocking back on the heel, sliding the hips back, slide that heel in, and revisit the lunge, tipping back into bent left knee. And slowly moving back, maybe sliding or inchworming that left foot forward. If you feel like you really kind of just need to go back and forth a few more times before holding, of course, do that. We might stay up on the blocks. We may be drawing the toes back. Perhaps we're dialing the leg, the toes, the knee a bit more to the left as we keep that heel anchored. And gradually, as you feel ready, we'll rebend left knee. We may place that right hand on the ground. We might need to heel toe that left leg a little wider. We may be planting the left hand on left knee. We can keep the back knee down, but we might tuck the back toes and raise the knee. We may raise left arm. Check in with the neck. Check in with that left foot. Open the toes. Make sure the toes aren't clawing into the mat. Cycling that top hand overhead. Let the right knee come down. Find your block hands. Move that left block hand inside. We'll just heel toe, heel toe. Keep taking that left foot back and around until it becomes easier maybe to sweep the leg around, bend the knee, dropping back like we're going to come into a child's pose. And you're welcome to come into child's pose, but we might do something a little bit different. So you could use the floor. You could use a couple of blocks. I like using the bolster. So you can choose whatever you have handy. We're going to bring the forearms, these are not your forearms, your elbows, your upper arms onto the prop or onto the ground. So we're walking those elbows forward and the palms come together. The brow drops and the thumbs move towards the back of your neck. So we might be walking those elbows further forward and the upper arms closer alongside the head. You could also do this standing at the counter. Breathing down the back. And gradually releasing. Gathering those arms back in. We'll just take a moment to clear the props off of the mat. Bring your block hands forward, stepping right foot forward. Tuck the back toes, raise that back leg, stepping back foot forward, looking out. And exhale, tipping in, finding a forward fold, maybe hands on blocks, perhaps hands on the ground. We may be nodding the head, circle nodding the head. Stretching bottom jaw away from top jaw. Let the lips come back towards one another. We may sway, lean the hips a little side to side. Let's put a little bend in the knees, forearms to thighs, sink the hips. Take your time. We may sink the hips a little lower, rooting to rise, inviting the arms up and overhead. And exhale, letting the arms release down. So please feel free to come to a wall for a little added support for standing balance. We may be taking the right foot back, so right toes again tucked under. And that right arm may be reaching up in the air. We may bring the hand behind the head, support the neck. Finding a standing back bend. Notice how this feels in the front body. We may grab hold of the right wrist, right forearm with the left fingers. Go for lift, go for length. And perhaps we find a moderate lean over to the left. We'll come back up to middle. Release that right foot. So second side when you're ready. Left toes step back. The left arm may be reaching up in the air. We might decide to take the hand behind the head, tipping back, leaning back. We may grab hold of the left wrist, forearm, go for length, and a little bit of lean over to the right. Little lean with rotation towards the right, chin perhaps dipping towards the chest. And we'll bring ourselves back up to the middle, releasing, shift it out. So shift out anything that needs it. And please feel free to use a wall to support balance, to help with balance. So the intention here is to challenge the balance a little bit. So we'll just create a pattern first, and then if you feel like you want to go a little faster, please do. So 1 foot forward, let's do that twice. So we're going forward, and then we're going forward diagonal in whichever direction you're in. So maybe we don't have a hand on the wall. And then we're taking it straight out to the side. So it's very easy. Maybe we don't have a hand on the wall. Maybe we keep a hand on the wall. We're going diagonal back. Make sure you're not going to kick anything or anyone twice. And then straight back. So switch to the other foot, forward, twice, diagonal forward, out to the side, diagonal back, and straight back. And then just take a moment, give yourself a little shift. Now that you know where we're headed, maybe you need to clear a little more space. You don't kick anything or anyone. We could use a pretend wall. Take 1 foot forward. Now the intent is to challenge the balance. So if it's super easy, come away from the wall. Maybe the leg's going a little higher or you're going a little faster. Straight back. Go right into that second side when you're ready. Again, make sure you're not going to kick anything or anyone. And straight back. And maybe there's an area where the balance gets a little interesting. Shift it out, shake it off. And let's try one more for the feet, the legs there. So let's take 1 foot forward, 1 leg back. Now you don't want to feel like you're on a tightrope, so if you need your feet to be a little wider, go ahead and let them be. Put a little bit of bend in the back knee, rocking back on that front heel. So we might just tip in and repeat a few times, getting into the back of that front leg. And then straight. So 2nd foot forward, the other foot back. It's not a super wide lunge position. Make sure you feel like you can balance. When you're ready, we'll tip back on that front leg heel. And maybe that's enough. Maybe we extend the arms like we're touching a wall. Maybe we do. This side might feel a little different. Can we keep trying to draw the little toe side of that front foot back? Releasing, shifting it out. So let's take a moment and step out wide, going for a wide leg stance, maybe a little rock through the feet. I'm going to mirror. Let's turn the right toes towards a short edge of the mat. Fan the toes, lunge, bend into that front knee, and re-extend, fanning toes. You're listening to your hip, you're listening to your knee. We're lunge bending and extending. So we may bend, maybe we need to heel toe that back leg a little wider and open the arms out towards a T position. We may gaze out over a bent knee side. And perhaps we take right forearm, right thigh, and take that top arm up and overhead. We may sink down into that lunge. We might decide to rise up instead of going lower. Let's gradually come back up. Now, if your feet are sliding, which can happen on the yoga mat, maybe we heel toe that back leg in. We're sinking back into that warrior 2 position. Option to put the back hand, maybe your left hand on the left hip, and take that right arm up and overhead. We may decide to grab the wrist, tip leaning back towards back leg, while keeping bend in front knee. And let's rise up. Pivot the toes in, finding warrior 2 out to that second side. We might decide to extend and rebend the knee. We might want to give the hip, the knee a little time before we hold. We may be releasing left hand, left forearm to the thigh, taking that top arm up and overhead, going for more length. Perhaps we lunge, bend a little deeper, perhaps not. And rising back up. How's the distance? Maybe we're heel toeing the back foot in. Revisit warrior two. Right hand, perhaps right hip. Hop arm might come up and over towards that back leg side. And then gradually rising up, pivoting left toes in, heel toe feet in as needed. Land with the heels out a smidge, toes in. Put a little bend in the knees, hinge at the hips, tipping forward, perhaps hands coming down onto blocks, maybe down onto the ground. We may be walking heel to the hands back towards heels of the feet. Perhaps the head is nodding, circle nodding, stretching the jaw, looking for more ease. Perhaps we're bringing elbows, forearms down onto blocks or onto the ground or up higher onto a chair seat. Lift fan, release the toes. Let's rise partway up. Please feel free to grab those blocks if you don't yet have them. Let's look to the left knee, pivot those left toes out. Go for our lateral lunge. So right leg straight, we're engaging, drawing up on that right knee. And let's rise back up, pivot, left toes in, angle, left toes out. Finding that lateral lunge. And slowly, slowly finding our way back to the middle. Heel, toe, feet in. Let's put a little bend in the knees, transition forearms to thighs, and we may be sinking the hips. Perhaps we sink the hips lower. Listen to the knees. You can absolutely stay higher, rooting to rise. We'll come all the way back up, reaching up, going for length, and letting the arms release down by the side. So remembering that we always have options. You know your hips and knees best. If you're not quite sure, maybe we come to a wall, standing first, and put a hand on the wall. Put a little bend in both knees, lift the right leg, and just a cross-legged position. We're sitting with the right thigh on top of the left. We're sitting back. The wall can support you. How does this feel through the knee, through that outer thigh? We'll rise up and try that on the second side. So second knee, second thigh on top, moving into your seat. Maybe you decide that you're going to try that with the hands off the wall. Maybe you decide you're going to come to a chair and try that because that's where balance is at today. So shifting it out. We have a couple other options. Let's come down to the ground. And you might do this on your back. So we can try this out on our back. Cross right thigh on top of the left. And just checking in. And you can stay there or pull the thighs into the chest. You could grab your pant legs. Maybe you can grab right hand to left lower leg or even a little toe side of the foot. That can be a lot though. Left hand's on the opposite, the right. We're drawing the toes back. We're pressing out through the heels. And we want the head and neck supported. So there's a lot of rounding in the back. Maybe you plug a pillow of some sort under the head. Releasing. Extend that right leg. Try out left side. So we'll move those thighs in. Maybe we're grabbing a little to the sides of the feet. That again can be a lot. We might just grab our pants somewhere or the lower legs. Maybe you're grabbing your big toes. And releasing, right foot, extend that left leg. Let the left foot come down. Give yourself a moment. So if this is the only yoga practice or you've done in the last couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, maybe those are good variations for now. If you feel like you want to do the seated variation, we'll work towards that, but there will be options. So maybe first we just find a cross-legged position. We might find our cushion or a block to sit on. And we grab opposite elbows. And we may take those forearms overhead, but even that sometimes is quite challenging. So maybe the forearms are a little further forward. And we might pick a hand and pat ourselves on the back, hold on to the elbow, tipping the back of the head back into the crook of the elbow. And then swap, try that on the second side. So we may release that. And if you have a strap nearby, it could even just be a towel. Go ahead and drape it over a shoulder. Find those elbows again. And that first hand, let that hand drop and maybe grab hold of the strap. Let the other arm extend, rotate palm down, palm back, and find that kind of funny breakdance move. And let the back of the hand find the ribs. And then your hand is searching for the strap. So you might be holding the strap with both hands, tipping back. Now, whichever elbow you have on top, you might be leaning away. So if the left elbow is pointing up to the ceiling, maybe you're tipping to the right or vice versa. We'll come back up to the middle and trade. So we're holding opposite elbows. We may pat ourselves on the back with that second hand. We might extend the other arm, palm down, palm back, funny breakdance move. Back of the hands to the ribs. And you're finding that strap with both hands. And maybe the hands are even walking closer, fingers getting closer and closer. We might even be linking fingers. Breathing. You do not have to do the lean, but maybe we tip lean to the other side. And we'll bring it back to the middle, releasing, and we may choose to roll out the shoulders or go for an embrace. So you can choose. If you have been in this cross-legged position, maybe your preferred variation is just going to be to bring the other leg on top. Alternatively, that knee cross we were doing, we might have a block nearby. We might slide that right shin forward. Watch out for your block, and tuck the left knee in behind the right. So we did this standing, we did this on our back. You do not have to do this way on the ground at all. We might sit back on our block. Some of us might sit on the ground, but you are really listening to those knees and that outer right thigh. And then if it is your right leg on top, this time let's take left elbow up, hold on to left elbow. Extend right arm. And maybe we're going for the bind with a strap, or perhaps we're linking fingers. But instead of side bending this time, we may tip forward. Now, if we're really high, be cautious about tipping forward. And listen to those shoulders. Maybe the bind isn't the way to go. Maybe we're holding the elbow instead of linking fingers or holding strap. So slowly coming back up, we may be releasing the arms and then swapping the legs. We might just navigate left knee in front of the right, shins open wide, and we're coming back. Maybe you're sitting on something between the wheels, find your cushion, find your block, or we're just in that cross-legged position. So you have your left knee, if it's your left knee, we'll hold the right elbow. And maybe extend the left arm and go for the bind. You could grab your top instead of the strap. You could link your fingers. Maybe we just hold the elbow, tip leaning forward. And gradually rising back up. If we went for the forward bend, let the arms release. Whichever version of the legs you came into, we'll take a moment and unwind the legs. So thinking about what you have nearby for props for supported inversion. Maybe you're going to come to a wall and use a wall. Maybe you're going to use a chair or a stack of cushions. I'm going to pull the chair into the front here. So we might grab a chair. And we may have our blanket or even just a pillow that we put in that shoulder stand fold. It's just a rectangle, and we'll have that nearby. So we may drop down onto back body. With the floor, if the room is chilly, maybe you want some socks on. We'll swing perhaps the lower legs up onto the chair seat. And we may come down, press into the legs so that we can lift the hips and slide the prop, the cushion, the blanket underneath the hips. So the hips are just slightly higher than the throat. If you have another blanket or cushion for added weight or warmth, placing that over the hips, over the belly. If the floor is warm enough, the backs of the hands may be on the ground, palms up. You may prefer to tuck the hands into the blanket or onto the body. Inviting the eyes to rest. Let the body sigh. Slacken the space between the eyebrows. Let the cheeks find more ease. Let the teeth part. The lips may part. Let the shoulders be heavy. We may notice the rise of the belly towards the ceiling with the inhale, the releasing towards the ground as we exhale. Inviting the hips to be heavier. Letting the belly unwind. You are welcome to rest here as long as you like. We may be deepening the breath. We may be running the tongue across the fronts of the teeth. We may be bringing movement back into toes. We may feel the ribs expand with the inhale, releasing, sighing with the exhale. The finger movements may become bolder, bending elbows and circling wrists. Perhaps reaching the arms overhead, tilt the tailbone down and exhale, letting it go. Consider sliding the knees closer to the chest and carefully tilting to rest on your easiest side. There is no hurry. When it feels like the sands have shifted from the upper side of the hourglass to the lower, take your time to support yourself back to a seat. Maybe bringing that second favorite leg on top. Sitting with the breath. We may connect palms, rubbing the hands together. Placing a hand to the belly, a hand to the heart. The invitation is to seal our practice with vibrational sound. You are welcome to hum. You are welcome to join me with the sound Om or sing any sound that vibrates for you. Deep inhale. Om. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing this practice. Please let me know if anyone has any questions. Thank you, everyone. Okay, it looks like you found the link to the recordings. Okay, good. Thank you all. See you next time. Have a good rest of your week.